My name is an awesome day. It's so good that we get to do this together this evening, and thank you for choosing us. I know you could be anywhere else, but you're here with me. And a couple of days ago about truth. And I found myself wondering that if one side of a story is told, and if we are to fight for change or for justice, then indeed as a matter. And tonight we're talking about abuse. Over the past few days and few weeks, we've had harrowing set their son on fire. Who had been beating her for months, set their son on fire and burnt him to death. Suffering and are in pain everywhere. But can we talk about abuse without looking at the other women? Or is it still domestic violence when it happens to men? And if you're listening to us tonight, I'm sure you've heard of men who don't want to go home at night because their wives are manipulating them, and their wives are a tool to manipulate and to get what they want. I'm sure you've heard about men who sit in drinking bars all night because just because she feels that she can get away with it. And even as we fight for women, we must fight for men. And Strong and Sassy is brought to you by Roberts & Sons Optical Services. Roberts & Sons, seeing is believing here. Because the eye is our most important sense organ, accounting for about 80% of our awareness of our environment. What else I want to do? I want to hear from you if you're a man and you're being abused. The phone lines are open. Is 0302-216-541. I will get to my guests in a second, but if you know that it's okay for their voices to be heard. So tonight, if you're listening to us, you're a man and you're being abused, call me and we're going to fight abuse together. Then we're going to have to fight it in totality. And whilst men are being held accountable for being abusive, 216-541. But Roberts & Sons have over 30 plus years of experience in all-day photography scans, 100% original and unbeatable frames, and optical products, including contact lenses and solutions. East Legon, Adenta, and Kumasi. For more information, please call 0302-222-601 or 050optical.com. And on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Roberts & Sons Limited. Tonight, I'll be joined by Afi Adbenyo. She's a development practitioner and gender activist, attendant of DOFSU, the director of DOFSU, Chief Superintendent Owusua Treme, asked this week, why do some women abuse their partners? Why do some... and you've been abused, call us and tell us your story. So I have my first caller on the line. Hello, good evening. Good to hear from you. What's up? What story do you have for us?
Yeah, what I have was though mine was I know verbal abuse is not that strong, but to some extent verbal abuse when it comes to the opposite side to support men abusing women to the extent of
course not.
taking
Of
their
course
lives.
not.
But in this case, supporting my mom, my dad, and at a point in time, I was from the lady is trying to abuse you verbally. The best way is to leave her at home and go. And when you are trying to reply, then it tends, if you don't say something, it tends to be nasty. Yeah, a whole lot of things. So when she started insulting me to that extent, I realized that the relationship was not going to...
On the line. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Animwaa.
Hi, what's your name? Hi, Emmanuel. Where are you calling from?
Put something in context. Oftentimes, people think abuse is just physical. But I tell you, men are usually in ship with a lady, my previous girlfriend. It's been 6 years now. And she abused me emotionally so much. So the story was that she had a problem with my mother. She stole something from my mother, and my mother wouldn't have me marry her. The relationship between the two of them. And it didn't work. Well, I think seeing that she's lost everything else, the only thing she could do was what she gave birth. And she's telling me that she's not going to give me the baby. I'm not the father of the child. After her taking responsibility, she wouldn't talk to me for weeks.
Wow.
As I speak with you, she has given my child to my best friend, who is supposed to be interested on my work anymore.
Wow.
So anymore, it's important that we put a spotlight on emotional abuse much as we put it on the physical abuse in the town. And I'll just close my mind.
What about your child?
Say that again, please.
What's okay?
I tried to even perform my responsibility as a father. She wouldn't have any of it. Her parents, he's 7 years old, and then I kick in the legal processes.
Okay, well, all the best, and thank you so much for sharing different types of abuse. I have another call on the line. Hello, good evening. Please lower your the volume on your radio.
Good. This issue about abuse is good. You guys are trying to look at the other side as well, because provocation. I don't even say provocation. I mean, any kind of argument, she has to go destroying things here and there. Much you push her aside to go, hey, you have beaten me. She go there, go to my website, report, lies and polite to the court. All I've been vindicated. But still, just because there's a child between us, so it's not easy.
Wow. So, when you mentioned that you've gone, she took you to.
I've battered her, which wasn't even the situation. When I got there, brought evidences out, the event where maybe I can go.
In depth,
tell
okay.
The whole story. Yeah, okay. If I want to go into this story, it's going to take us the whole night.
Okay, but was it physical abuse?
Exactly. It got to a point in time, even what do you call it? Threat messages from her, which I have to show to my boss. I can't just gamble with my life like that. Later, issues got resolved some way, but still, even when I close, I had to be at the beer bar. So we've separated for almost 5 years now, and I'm okay. I'm doing well. Aside, just because of the child, maybe I need to call in or any small thing.
Hello, good evening. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay. So we're going to go and speak to our guests. I have Afi Adbenyo. She's Animwaa Anim-Addo, who is the director of DOVSU. Hello, good evening, ladies, and welcome. Oh, we have Anita as well on.
Good evening.
Hi, guys. It's good to have you here. So the past few weeks, there's been a lot of talk about abuse, but it's been about the abuse of women. And I mean, how do you feel when we're talking?
Okay, so how do I feel? Actually, I've been crying at some point, watching some videos and hearing some stories. There's also been conversations around abuse of men, and I've had people close to me, people also not too close. Yes, so it's not been a good week. It's extended into this week. I'm giving myself the grace to have had to, listen to. Yeah, so it's been tough getting into the week, and it doesn't look like it's going to end in this fight as well. Then I have to deal with the stories and find a way to keep sane while listening to them.
Yeah, I get that totally. Anita, let me about the fact that we're actually talking about women abusing men, or abusing the men that they love.
Listen, there's male and there's female. And I always say, if a fight isn't looked at from a balanced point of view, then your approach to the whole situation is itself imbalanced. So I think that it is crucial that even though, yes, indeed, we are roaring and we are begging for attention on women being also really important what you're doing tonight, which is, okay, let us talk about what happens to women, but let us also be conscious of what happens to men. After all, the bottom line is to be able to collectively reduce domestic violence in its entirety. Domestic violence against men, women, children. So it's transparency, it shows honesty, and most importantly, it gives the entire conversation balance, and that's what we need.
Well, thank you very much, Anita, for that. It was an easy voice, and speaking about what's happening to women, but are men less important? I have people. Also have Angela, Chief Superintendent Owusu Atrema. She's the director for DOVSU. She joins us on the line. Hello, good evening.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we'll come to you in a little bit just to talk us through, the processes of reporting abuse and creating a safe space for people. Asking the whole of last week, why do women stay in abusive relationships? That's the question
Well,
from a
let me,
woman's point of view, obviously.
Okay, so the stories of everybody, especially victims, and believe the victims' stories. And if we're, because yes, there are males who abuse us, and so we want to know why they abuse. And then there are males who are victims who need justice, and so we would have to also conversation on men and the need for balance. We don't need to have the abuse Olympics, if I should call it that way, like a competition of who is abused more. Women are, are speaking up about their abuse, then you have men letting you know that we are abused too, and the conversation together. It's important that context is, like we have Ghana, we have the wealth, there's poverty everywhere, but there are specific ways in which women are abused, and so there's the need so that we can be targeted in solutions. Now, moving forward, why do men stay silent in abusive solutions? I think one is because of toxic masculinity, bold, and you have to, have a face that looks like everything is okay with you. And so, if we open up to having conversations of men appreciating that, there are some concepts of masculinity that, well, not just bold face, but I think claiming to be strong always, that should be a right who are abused.
That point, Afi, we need a society. Even when you go on social media, and you look on Facebook or you look on Twitter, you realize that we are being abused. I think that they're speaking up because we are talking about abuse, and they're saying that you're speaking up. We expect that they react to us when we also speak up about our abuse.
And then this community.
Yes.
Because frankly, victims they're shamed, they're called, if you're a woman, then it's because you were disrespectful, you were too bold, you're not, and somebody beats you. So we're ridiculed differently,
Yeah.
And so we need to have that conversation as a community that,
because when they're dead, they can't really come in, you can't really
for them to get to document evidence.
Yeah.
And as difficult as this is, if I'm looking at recordings of me being abused, it certainly is quite a tormenting process for anybody.
Yeah.
But it is also important because get the community to understand the problem that we're
dealing with. Yes. Right. Yeah. A lot of the times. It's a lot of emotional abuse, psychological abuse, mental abuse, because it has not been highlighted as much. So, for example, we had a story about a man who, and until that is done, she will deny him the pleasure of her body, and he's not allowed to go outside for that. As women, that this is abuse, or are we just not taught to define the boundaries?
Okay. Animwaa, I think that it's education is key in every single sense of it all. You asked first the question about the side. I have come to the realization that one, I'm guided and guarded by data anymore. Data is boring, but data is key. Data will show you why majority of the men will remain silent, and data will also show you if that's why they do it. Because especially when you come to deal with maturity, when you come to deal with older people, they do know that the impact of what they're doing will hurt you, which is why they're doing it. It really helps to teach people where abuse starts and where it ends, where abuse sounds like. So you're asking if women know that what they're meting out or what they're doing is abuse. We also need to look, women or men. So that is why education and this kind of conversation is absolute key. So I cannot sit here and say that, if she does that, she doesn't know that it's abuse or not. I would say that in my work today, I'm guided by the data that I receive from very reliable organizations worldwide, very reliable organizations locally. Don't even know it's abuse, or victims or survivors don't know that they are being abused, hence don't know if they should reach out, scream, and ask for help. That's my work has taken me from urban to rural, from Ghana to Nigeria to wherever it is, and showed me how households are breaking down and melting as a result of it showing us. The data is sitting there. It's been sitting there for years. The data didn't just show up 2 weeks ago. It's been sitting there for years. But we've always trivialized these issues. It is suffocating us. And I agree with what Afi's first statement was, which is it's been heavy. It's been a heavy week because as much as you want to try, they provide ourselves. Thankfully, people like you will give us a platform to talk, and people like you will give us an opportunity to be a little bit more active. So exactly what kind of solution to put in place.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that, Anita. I'm going to speak to Chief Superintendent Owusu Treme in a little bit, but talk about their abuse. Now, a lot of people have texted me and have asked me that if we're talking about men being abused, why are we not talking to men who are being abused? I wish I could hear from men on why they abuse women. And more often than not, I can't find men who are willing to enter open. And if you're a man who has been abused and you want to share your story with us, we're very open to listen, because we want to offer that, and for our fathers and for our brothers and for our husbands to tell us that they are being abused. How do we create that space?
I guess just as we speak to women about abuse, do not glorify abuse. Do not pretend that there was a fight problem. So as much as possible, speak. Find you the tribe of men who will understand that what you're going through is, once they're having conversations and the other is dropping in such an important issue, they're likely to laugh at an issue you joke with, and then speak to them so they can help you. That is also one of the reasons why DOFZO is it, and get help. And if you cannot get help from close relatives, if it's getting to appreciate that, yes, it is important that we speak about abuse of all persons. I want to say this all over again, and this is important. Do not leave your wanting to talk about your abuse at, we also get abused, well, that everybody gets abused, so let's go sleep.
Yeah.
It's important that context comes in. So for example, I would want to give there is language that you use. So you can also share your story and make sure that you do not create the impression that you're stuck. So language is important, and I would encourage that we also do that. I mean, this is all in various thoughts. And I think that one thing I want to also mention is DOFSU is safe. Because even at the police station, anymore, you can imagine the ridicule of the man who is where we're going to get help. So that when we get there and we're talking about our abuse as men, we don't get to be, talked down at, and that space can also be safe for men to have that conversation.
Gosh, I feel I can imagine what that must feel like. But somebody who doesn't have to imagine and perhaps actually knows what that looks like. Hi. So, I mean, what does it look like in your experience over I need help? What does that look like?
Okay, so thank you very much and good evening to your listeners. 80% women being abused in Ghana as compared to men per the reported cases that we have. If you take every hand being men, yes, men do report cases of abuse. The staff there or the personnel there will laugh at you. Fortunately, we have men who work at DOFS. You're a man and you report your case, people are going to laugh at you because first and foremost, we are not dealing with marriage violence is a crime. And I keep telling people, how do you walk to police station to report a crime and people start laughing? When you walk to police station, nobody's going to laugh at you because it's a crime we have to fight. Because it might be assault today, tomorrow it's taken seriously because it must start. It might start off just like maybe exchange of has been named or the person is dead.
Right.
Now we have men coming. Yes, there is more to be done because platform we have the opportunity to engage men. We do tell them, come to DOFS. Nobody will laugh at you. In any case, the police personnel to laugh at you for reporting a crime.
A crime, yeah.
So we encourage men If you're a man and you are left a counter to talk about your issue, ask for the station officer, ask for the DOFSU coordinator anytime. And I have heard and seen and interviewed men who have been beaten by women.
Wow.
And there is nothing fun about it. There's nothing laughing. I mean, them. So when they started hitting us, we decided to come to DOFSU. Our doors are always open, men, women, to make it more comfortable for people to walk to DOFSU and complain. So, for instance, we have this idea of the one-stop center, which I am sure. And when we say survivor, we mean survivor, not focusing on women per se or saying women need to be able to tell your story. So, I mean, going forward, the strategic plan for DOFSU going forward is that there are other people standing there and then you talk about your issue. Now, we're trying to redesign, it's capital intensive anyway, trying to redesign our story, and you'll be the only person there. Nobody knows why you even
So there's privacy.
And then from there, we pick it up.
Okay.
So we're trying to make the environment, when you also come there, I mean, men can also work in there. If we're trying to also create an environment where men or women to have the courage to report to the police.
Right.
So on the side, DOFSU is trying to set up a counselor in a very relaxing, normal atmosphere where we can have personalities who will come in a very high, with a lot of confidential time. When you feel empowered enough to be able to report the case to the police, and then
you can.
We offer you that platform.
Rest assured that we will follow up with these things that you have told us today. That is to set up and making, the area a safe space for everyone. But I'm curious, a lot of the men that you've encountered, when they come to a police station, what
emotional abuse. There are times that you have physical abuse, but they are normally in the minority cases that we
those are the cases. Yeah. Okay, I mean, I have so many questions for you. I want to know, for example, if women come into the police station to report a crime and they have to go and get, it is
not act. There is the law has granted free medical care.
Yes, so it's the free medical care that we're worried to, for example, get a rape kit or something, and they have to pay.
And it is beyond us police because charge of that.
Free
issue. Medical care.
Okay.
The law says that a survivor of domestic violence is entitled to free medical care.
Okay.
And then when you live at the AG's office, you are the police, you need special reports from the hospital, you are exempted from paying fees.
Right.
So survivor. It's just the implementation that we are at a crossroads now.
Okay.
It says that even though it is in our books nicely written, justice for survivors of domestic violence.
Right. Okay.
Because now there are times that even police, some of us will have to pay. We fall on NGOs like Pearl Safe Haven has been paying for medical and other stuff for survivors. We have wives also coming in paying, right, and does the medical bill for free without charging. So we have people coming in, but the actual thing to do is to ensure that no survivor of domestic violence pays the password. Because I think that we also need to encourage the survivors, because sometimes the survivors come to the police station, and even though we as police personnel, as DOFSU personnel, we have to go around our own offices and ask for money, collection around, bring this, bring that, and then we put it together and sometimes get...
Hello?
Hi. Hello.
Okay, hi Noang. Sorry, I was just speaking to Chief Superintendent Owusu Atreme for us on the abuse against men and what you think we should do.
Thank you for having me. I've actually been on the line the most of the time. Good evening to Afi, good evening to Owusu, good evening to Anita, talking about abuse against men. And I'm happy you left me to the last because I had to shake it up a little for you. We cannot talk about abuse against indeed in the minority. And I think every gender activist or domestic violence activist clearly understands that indeed there is abuse. And I'll just give a few quick figures before I go to the question.
Okay, so we actually don't have time. I can give you another 45.
Simple. It's the same advice that we give to women. If you want to exit an abusive situation, you need to plan. You have to also plan it in a way that you're protected, because in a violent situation, you're open to anything. So find out your exit plan, which is very important. Should contain a financial plan on feet. So if you're not financially buoyant, that's going to further delay your exit plan. Solution about their abuse. Because I find what would be unfair would be to focus more on men than on women, because interjecting when we are talking about
women's abuse.
Say, okay, men are also being abused.
Okay,
because
I see what you mean.
I find them trying to, let them champion
their
story,
abuse as well,
irrespective of what impediments are out there, because those impediments are exacerbated even knows your situation
better than you do,
and can communicate it better than you. There's a million things I want to say, but you're restricting me.
Yes, so we will. I promise you that we will continue this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us, Nguyen Falong, journalist and gender activist, a very who joined us this evening. And the message is this: that we're calling on men to champion this conversation on their own abuse. Animwaa Anim-Addo. I'm handing over to George and Gary.
Oh my guy, my eyes behind the PC problem, in the sun problem, common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert.